the line, you can't fold and you can't bend. Y'all be playing it safe and I be going for the win. Remember back when they was doubting on the kid. Now they tuned in cause my game too legit.
Yo, Headliner Nation, what is going on? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners, and we are back with Mock Draft Monday. And y'all have been requesting it for a while now. You wanted to see some deeper leagues. So I decided to go with a 14-team mock draft today. We're going half PPR, a normal format with one quarterback. We're doing 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex position. But I've been seeing it in the comments for a while. Kyle, can you all do a deeper league, 14 to 16 teams? So I went ahead and rolled with the 14-team league. Typically, those are going to be a little bit more popular than 16 teams. Not a whole lot of people love playing in 16 teams unless they're like die hard, ready to roll. 14 it does end up pushing it for a lot of people because you do really get into the nitty-gritty of a lot of players. You're going to see our starting lineups. I'm going to talk about our bench. I'm going to go through, I'm going to break down everybody's draft, and we're going to talk about how this thing played out. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, this is all done on Fantrax, right? We are partnered with our friends at Fantrax this season, and right now we've got a $1,000 best ball challenge that you can get in on, and we're also doing our largest giveaway ever where you, Headliner Nation, could potentially get tickets to your choice of an NFL game this season and another $1,000 to spend on whatever you want. Ladies and gentlemen, hit that like button for me. Let's go ahead and jump into it and talk about how this draft went this week. Yo, Headliner Nation, here is the final draft board from our 14-team, half PPR, 1 QB, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a flex, a kicker, and a defensive special teams. Went 18 rounds, so you know by the time we got to the end of this draft that we were really trying to dig deep and find the guys that could be put on the bench and just wait on and see if they can give us any type of value throughout the season. We're going to dive into this right now. I got the entire draft board up here because I can switch back and forth between the grid and by position to kind of talk a little bit more about what the teams look like a little bit easier. So you might be able to look here and say, okay, I can see straight through what a starting lineup will be. I can also go back to the grid as well. So wanted to do it this way so I could go back and forth between both of them a little bit. So the first pick in the first round, Christian McCaffrey, and then we go Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, James Dennison going with Nick Chubb. You know we love to see that here. Kamara, Zeke, JT, Antonio Gibson goes to Peasy. A little bit on the earlier side, but if Peasy loves his guy, Peasy's got to get Antonio Gibson because there is no way Antonio Gibson is going to make it back to him in the second round. And by the looks of it, since he went with CEH in the second round, he was looking to have a 2 RB start to this draft. Now, for me personally, that was going to be my plan as well. I wanted to go with 2 running backs to start the draft because in a 14-team league, it's getting even more difficult to find enough running backs to give yourself upside and depth on your team. So, Peasy going with Antonio Gibson, absolutely no problem with it. Is it a little bit earlier than what I would have liked? Yeah, absolutely. But I know Peasy loves Antonio Gibson, so he's going to get him now, so he's not going to miss out. Now, if it's a 12-team league and we're chopping a couple of guys off there in the end, maybe Antonio Gibson does make it to him, especially if maybe he drafts more towards the 10 or 11 spot. But in this league, this depth, it's not going to happen. Howie Roseman goes with Aaron Jones. This was going to be my pick. I was hoping Aaron Jones, as soon as Nick Chubb was gone, Aaron Jones was going to be my target coming out of the 11 hole. I was waiting for it. It just didn't end up happening, obviously. Aaron Jones, I end up missing out on him there. Devontae Adams goes. So then it comes to me, and I've got a choice. Barkley is sitting here for me, okay? And listen, we have heard over the last couple of weeks that there is a good chance that Saquon Barkley might not be ready until week 3. I don't think any of us are really going to know. And I have got concerns about Barkley staying healthy all season long. I've talked to Dr. Ethan Turner about it. He's told me I don't have any more concerns about Barkley than I would have anybody else. So for him, he's not skipping on Saquon Barkley. So when we get to the 11th spot and I see a guy sitting here that has the RB1 upside, not saying that he is going to be the RB1, just we know he could be an RB1 because of the upside we've seen from him before. Because of that, I decide to take the risk. I go with him over an Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, CEH, David Montgomery, Joe Mixon, J.K. Dobbins, all of these guys. I decide at this point, heck, I'm going to go ahead and roll with Saquon Barkley. He's lasted till the end of the first round. I will take that potential value there, even if I need to sit out, even if I'm going to be missing him for a few weeks. But then at that point, I got to remember going through the draft, I am going to have running backs to make up for Saquon Barkley being out. And I'll talk about that more here in a minute. Eckler going off the board at 12. Mixon at 13, Travis Kelce at 14. Not surprised. Travis Kelce, really right now, his ADP is sitting just towards the back third of the first round. So to see him last until 14 overall in a 14-team draft, that didn't surprise me that he ended up going there. And then mock drafter 14 ends up going with Tyreek Hill right afterwards. So very interesting that he decided to pair these two together there. Now, I will say mock drafter 14, unfortunately, after Melvin Gordon, I believe, lost internet connection. And the auto draft picked up at that point. That's going to happen, especially when we create our content in a live scene like that. Sometimes things are going to go awry. That happens. But we can't just restart it. So unfortunately, that ended up happening. Mock Drafter 14 has an issue. It pulls. He ended up losing internet connection, and obviously, from you can see from his team, it was awful. Anyway, moving on. We come back. So Sir Caps-A-Lot ends up going with J.K. Dobbins to pair with Mixon, Najee Harris to Khalifa to pair with Austin Eckler, and then it gets back to me. And like I already mentioned, I want to go running back heavy. I want to start. But it's hard for me to sit here in a 14-team league where I have to start 3 wide receivers and see a guy that is top 3 at the position still sitting here at the beginning of the second round. I had to make the move on Stephon Diggs. And then I'm crossing my fingers, praying to the fantasy gods that I can get some running backs to fall to me. Need upside decides to go with Patrick Mahomes. He was trying a little bit of a different strategy this week, going with a quarterback a little bit early. George Kittle to Howie Roseman. Kind of surprised that he goes with Kittle over Darren Waller here. Darren Waller would have been my pick, especially if I'm going to go with a tight end this early. Kittle, I talked about it on our live show the other night. Injury profile over the last couple of years has not been great. Brandon Ayuk is in his second year in the league. Deebo Samuel's back and healthy. He's got more weapons around him than he's ever had. Trey Lance is not the starting quarterback right now. Because of that, for me, George Kittle, I've got him behind Darren Waller. Peasy mentioned that already. And then we got a nice little wide receiver run here. DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, and then Darren Waller. And that kind of surprised me a little bit with David Montgomery and DeAndre Swift still sitting there. That because of it being a 14-team league, that these guys didn't go with him a little bit earlier. But James Dennison, I love this start right here for him. Going Nick Chubb, Justin Jefferson, and then ends up getting DeAndre Swift to fall to him right here. Absolutely of a fire start for James Dennison to get these 3 guys. He does end up going Dak Prescott here, which for me personally, I probably wouldn't have gone with Dak there. Seeing this start, I would have gone with another wide receiver, or I would have tried and grabbed another running back as well to kind of reinforce these 2 guys right here. But overall, these first 3 picks were absolute fire. So A.J. Brown, Darren Waller, and then Most Dopalicious does go with his 2 running back start. And then he gets CeeDee Lamb. And the one thing I see from his wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and DJ Chark here, is he's paired a couple of guys. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is going to have upside, but he's going to be safe too, right? One of the safest running backs in the league. David Montgomery is going to be a guy that maybe lacks a little bit of upside, but he's going to be extremely safe. And he pairs him with some wide receivers in CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and DJ Chark, who aren't necessarily going to be the wide receiver one on their team every single week, but are going to have a lot of upside every single week. So he kind of paired this safe start here and then added in Ronald Jones, who, again, isn't going to have a whole lot of upside because he's going to have other people touching the football. But he's a guy that I believe can get you around 10 fantasy points a week. And then CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and DJ Chark, you're hoping that these guys are just going boom as much as possible. So a little bit of, for most Dopalicious, trying to offset a little bit of that safety to begin with some of that upside at the wide receiver position. Mock Drafter 2 going Josh Jacobs before some of these other guys. Didn't like that one at all. Sorry, Mock Drafter 2. There's a little bit too much risk here for this team. You went and decided to go Darren Waller. So your first two picks are great. But Josh Jacobs not getting a whole lot of love this offseason. Loses a lot of upside with Kenyon Drake being in town now. Tyler Lockett is extremely boomer bust. Finishes a wide receiver 3 or lower 13 times last season. Kenny Galladay, or not 13, 10 times last season, I believe. Kenny Galladay dealing with injury issues right now. Leonard Fournette really not going to be a guy that offers you any upside. So unfortunately with Mock Drafter 2, just didn't love this start. There's a lot of risk in here, and there's just not nearly enough upside to help offset it, I believe. Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift, Chris Carson going to Fat Doc here, pairing Chris Carson along with Alvin Kamara. You got to hope at this point that Chris Carson doesn't get injured, and Javonte Williams takes quite a bit of snaps away from Melvin Gordon. This is a risky pair right here with these running backs, because if Chris Carson gets hurt and Javonte Williams isn't really doing anything, now you've got a bunch of running backs who can't really step in as a running back too. So that is a concern there. K-Mac, loving this start. Obviously with the running backs, he's very, very thin at running back. He goes Zeke, Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin. Now, as we're kind of going through things and we get right back here to where Mark Andrews was, right here is where I end up taking a Javonte Williams or a Travis Etienne or a Michael Carter or a Melvin Gordon. I'm trying to, as we're wrapping back through this way, tight end right here, yeah, you like Mark Andrews, but K-Mac has now left himself very, very thin. And if you didn't want to do it here, taking a quarterback here, would have rather have gone with it, because A.J. Dillon, I mean, he's going to be a guy that maybe you can flex in some good weeks, but as your RB2, it's going to be really, really tough to get any type of a return value on him on a weekly basis. So K-Mac, love the start. Just the running back position is going to be a really, really big concern for me. Chris right here going with Myles Garrett, Joe. So Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Hopkins, Myles Garrett, Amari Cooper. Really, really nice balanced start for Chris here. Absolutely love that for him. And then Travis Etienne, Latavius Murray, Damian Williams, Tevin Coleman in his running back position. Again, you don't need to start 3 running backs. I mean, you could flex one if you want to, but when you get into like a 14-team league, you're not going to be able to flex a running back every single week if you're not drafting 3 of them right away. So he ends up getting some guys like a Tyler Boyd. He ends up getting 3 wide receivers that he can really trust and 2 running backs. So if it's a good matchup, he can go with Travis Etienne. He could potentially go with a Henry Ruggs if Henry Ruggs does end up, in fact, breaking out this season. So he's got some options there to work with. The one thing that you might want to do with Myles Gaskin, because of how things are settling here for you, Chris, is I'm going to add like Salvin Ahmed later on in the draft, so I have got his backup in case something happens to him. Great start here for Peasy again. Already talked about Antonio Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Then he ends up getting Allen Robinson as his wide receiver 1, Chris Godwin. Goes with Lamar Jackson here. Then goes with Gus Edwards. And Gus Edwards as your running back 3 is absolutely an excellent. And then he stashes Wayne Gallman even further down here. And if you've listened to some of the videos that Jake has done this offseason, especially one where he talked about some late round high upside plays potentially, or some risky guys later on that could return value, Wayne Gallman is definitely a guy to keep an eye on. So this is a great start for Peasy. I think Peasy had one of the better starts in this draft. Lamar Jackson in round 5, can't argue with that. Jalen Waddle gets Robert Tonyan, Big Bob Tonyan right here in the 8th round, which is really, really good value as well. So Peasy, I really, really love this draft. Really knocked it out of the park. A great start. goes with balance along the way, grabs some guys with upside like Waddle and Hardman later on, grabs Gallman to try and reinforce as his wide running back 4 a little bit. Great start. And then he does end up going with Zach Wilson, grabs a second quarterback, which in a 14-team league, it's not that bad. You know, typically I'm saying I'm not grabbing a backup quarterback. So Howie Roseman, coming down to him. I don't really mind the Damian Harris pick here. 6th round, not bad, especially considering you've only got one running back at this point. But again, going George Kittle here, that's where things hurt a little bit. Because for Howie Roseman, instead if you go Aaron Jones and then CEH, and then now you have Keenan Allen, and maybe as we come back through here, so we're coming back this way, obviously Kyle Pitts and TJ Hawkinson are already gone, but then Mark Andrews is there. You take him instead, and then you still come back this way, and you've got a guy like Aaron Rodgers that would still be available for you. Kyler Murray, love the upside this year. He's going to be coming up in more videos pretty soon. It's just Damian Harris is my RB2 right here. Not bad. But again, you lack a lot of depth at the running back position now. Keenan Allen, great wide receiver 1. Kyler Murray, great as your quarterback. T. Higgins, Jerry Jeudy, Curtis Samuel, Will Fuller. A lot of question marks here when it comes to your wide receiver 2 and 3. T. Higgins, you know, again, a guy that's going to have some decent upside, but is he going to be a guy to return value every single week with all the weapons that they have there? Jerry Jeudy, a lot of drops last season. Can he take care of those? And then again, you've also got a lot of weapons there. You've got 2 running backs that can tote the football and catch the football. You've got Cortland Sutton coming back. You've got Noah Fant. So, and Curtis Samuel right now on the COVID list, he's not getting a chance to work with his new quarterbacks there in Washington and really get familiar with them. So, and then Will Fuller, obviously we know, dealing with some injury issues, and he's going to be suspended the first game of the season. So there's a lot of risk, and that's going to happen in a 14-team league, right? But that's why it's so important to nail the first 2 or 3 picks of your draft in such a deep format, because things are going to thin out so quickly as we get further down. You're going to be taking a lot of risk with a lot of players saying, oh man, I hope this guy hits and I hope this guy hits. So having guys that you can put in your lineup early on where you feel comfortable with them, that's really, really needed. Need upside, like I mentioned, who's trying something else, going with Patrick Mahomes here. I know need upside is loving James Robinson. I love James Robinson as well. I'm kind of coming a little bit more around to the fact that if you draft him as your RB2, as long as you have some upside behind him that you could potentially use if it's not a great matchup, that would be great. But, I mean, trust me, I'm the number 1 James Robinson truther that there is. But they drafted Travis Etienne in the first round. They don't have a great defense. Etienne's being used as a pass catcher. He's not going to be used as a wide receiver. He's going to be used as a running back, and he's going to be used in those situations. Then he ends up going Kyle Pitts, Raheem Mostert, Juju Smith-Schuster, which I like. Again, with the running backs, though, can you trust James Robinson? Mostert's going to be really boomer bust, right? That's what he's going to be. We know he can take it to the house, but how much work is Trey Sermon going to get? Zach Moss has Devin Singletary, and Zach Moss does not have a great injury profile, and Zach Moss just isn't really that good. So you go Devontae Adams and Patrick Mahomes, you're going wide receiver quarterback to start, and then you try to toss a tight end in here as well, because as we're going through it, we're coming back through here in the 4th round. Kyle Pitts comes off the board. I was excited because here is where Mike Davis falls to me, and let's talk about this pick a little bit. So Mike Davis comes off the board right here when I would have rather had TJ Hawkinson, when I would have rather had Robert Woods, and where potentially, depending on how things played out, there may be another wide receiver or two like a DJ Moore that I'm looking at here. However, what we got when we're going through the draft, and I was wrong, we're going the other way. So anyway, Mike Davis was gone for need upside. My bad. I had my ways back up. Okay, so let's go ahead and toss that out the window. Obviously, upside couldn't have drafted Mike Davis. He was gone. But James Robinson here probably should have went with Darrell Henderson instead, because at that point, boom, Darrell Henderson goes here. Now you got a guy that has a little bit more upside than James Robinson. James Robinson maybe ends up falling, and then bam, you can grab him here because I would have went Mike Davis over James Robinson. Sorry for the confusion there. Okay, so now we're going through. Okay, boom. Okay, so we're right here. Let's talk about my team a little bit more here real quick. Saquon Barkley, Stephon Diggs, Darrell Henderson, Mike Davis. Let's talk about my first 4 picks, okay? As we go through the draft, and we're coming through... Wait a second. Do I keep messing up? I feel like I keep screwing things up. We're here. No, Mike Davis would have been gone for Kyle Pitts. It's late. It's late. Okay? I haven't slept well the past couple of nights. I clearly have no idea what I'm talking about at times. I apologize for that. I'm trying to make sure I'm going the correct way. Okay? So, yes, I would have taken Mike Davis, obviously, before Kyle Pitts. Okay? So, we're coming back this way. All right? So, TJ Hockenson goes off the board right before me here in the 4th round. Right? Okay, so TJ Hockenson, boom, he's off the board. That's who I would have loved to get in the 4th round. So now it comes to me, and I'm sitting here on the clock, and Kyle Pitts is staring me in the face. But the problem is we go back to what we said about Saquon Barkley earlier. We don't know when for sure he's going to play his first game this season, and we don't know when for sure he's going to be ready to take on a full workload. And because of that, right here, even though I might want to take a Kyle Pitts, even though I might want to take a Chris Godwin, an Amari Cooper, a Cooper Kupp, an Adam any of these guys, as we're going through the 4th round back this way, okay? As we're going through the draft, back through the 4th round, I have to go Mike Davis because he's not going to be there. And with Barkley being hurt, that's just the risk that I had to take because I knew that I wasn't going to get the guys. So I ended up having to pass on some guys that might have better seasons, higher upside, and it's because I have to make sure in a 14-team league, I don't leave myself too thin at the running back position. Now, when it comes back to me in the 5th round, I end up grabbing Deontay Johnson. Now, for those of you that watched a video I did the other day, I labeled Deontay Johnson as a must-avoid. But as we say all the time, we don't hate players. We hate ADP. And Deontay Johnson being like an early 5th round pick for me might be a little much. But here in a 14-team league, getting him in the back half of the 5th round is more like getting him like mid-6th. I've got my upside in Stephon Diggs. I've got my safety with my running backs, right? So I've grabbed Darrell Henderson, who I love this season now. Saquon Barkley's got that upside. Mike Davis, he's going to get touches. I can put him in as the RB2 if Barkley isn't ready to go. I need a little bit of help, okay? Juju, to me, is going to end up being the safest wide receiver on the Pirates. And if you don't believe me, you're going to see so in a video coming up pretty soon. So you're not allowed to pass judgment until you see my argument for it. Chase Claypool might have the biggest boom or bust potential on the team. Lots of big plays. He's going to be the deep threat. Deontay Johnson, for me, was a good mixture of giving me some safety while allowing me to have a little bit of upside as well. And because I need to start 3 wide receivers and I don't have my wide receiver 2 yet, I needed a little bit of that. I needed to get a guy that was going to be right in between that. So that's why I went with him over Claypool or Smith-Schuster, even though I think Claypool could have a little bit more boom potential, and even though I believe Juju has a little bit more safety, and the drops for me for Deontay Johnson are a little bit worrisome. Because of that, I've got to go Deontay here. The ADP is a little bit better for me. The value is a little bit better for me, and the draft just, it felt right there. Brandon Ayuk, I go with him here. Again, trying to shoot for a little bit more upside. Knowing that I had to play it safe with Mike Davis, I'm trying to shoot for some more upside, and Brandon Ayuk will be the big play wide receiver for the 49ers this year. I decide here in round 7 to grab Trey Sermon. Again, I want to have a nice running back room in a 14-team league, because if I get injuries at running back, there is not going to be any available, ladies and gentlemen, because you have to assume, yeah, you may have added 2 more teams to a 12-team league, but that's another not even 3, that's probably another 4 to 6 running backs that you're potentially losing out on that you could potentially draft, because you have to know that these 2 teams are going to be adding 4 to 6 running backs at some point in time. Okay, so because of that, you got to know in a 12-team, and even dropping down if you were to drop to a 10-team league. In a 10-team league, you're grabbing so much upside because all the best players are available. In 12 teams, probably don't have to do what I did here, but in a 14-team league, even though it's just 2 more teams, it changes that, and it changes it a lot. Ryan Tannehill, I get a guy that has legit quarterback, top 5, top 7 quarterback potential. I get him in the 8th round. I decided to go Noah Fant at number 9. I don't love Noah Fant this year, but I grab him because I'm like, again, I had to play it safe a little bit earlier on. I've had to grab some guys to make sure I have that safety, that depth that I need. Let's shoot for some guys that have a little bit more upside. So I grabbed Gabriel Davis in the next round as well. Again, that guy has the upside that I'm looking for. Xavier Jones, I decided to take him. My backup to Darrell Henderson in case something happens to Henderson. Brian Edwards is looking absolutely phenomenal right now in Raiders camp. I loved Brian Edwards coming out of the draft. Brian Edwards was a guy last season I thought had a legit chance to be a playmaker. He got hurt, though. Didn't end up playing all that well at times. He's 100% healthy. He's ready to break out this year. I decided to go. I drafted this as if the season were upon us. And if the season is closer to us, then I'm going to draft a kicker and a tight end a little bit, kind of here in that 11 to 13 or 14 round. Because I'm not going to play it too much. Like, if we're drafting like right this minute for waiting for several weeks, then you don't necessarily need to take anybody. Just grab a bunch of depth, and then if guys aren't working out, then use the waiver wire. But I was drafting this as if, hey, we're getting ready to play, and we're getting ready to play now. Jordan Akins, I love Jordan Akins. Why? Well, you would know it in the draft guide. Very, very big write-up on Jordan Akins. Nelson Aguilar, grabbed him. Again, some of that upside that you need to have, all right? He didn't practice, obviously. We're kind of waiting on what that might be as of right now. Don't really know if he's banged up or if he's just a day off at the time of this recording anyway. And then Giovanni Bernard and Quintez Cephas, just a couple of guys later on that, hey, might offer a little bit of half PPR upside at some point in time. Khalifa was really on brand here. Really like what Khalifa did. Got his running backs, got his tight end, got his quarterback, and just went all upside at wide receiver. Chenault, Mooney, Pittman, Bateman, Rager, Smith. Khalifa, at this point, what he's doing is he's going to be playing the matchups every single week. I love this lineup. Really, between him and Peasy, these were the two that I love the most. And James Dennison was right there up with him, too. I liked his start as well. So James, Peasy, and Khalifa were really the three that I was like, oh, man, I'm loving these. I love what I see out of these rosters. All a little bit different. All did some different scenarios. And, again, we can flip over here by position now so you can see the starting lineup. Dopalicious, Hurts, CMC, Montgomery, Chark, Chase, Lamb, and Rojo. Mock Drafter 2, Stafford, Cook and Jacobs, Galladay, Landry, Lockett, Leonard Fournette. Mock Drafter 3, Russ, and then Henry and Sanders, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Adam Thielen, David Johnson. James Dennison, Dak, Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, Brandon Cooks, Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, and James Conner. Tom Brady, and I forgot the Tyler Higbee, Darren Waller, Rob Gronkowski, my bad. For Fat Doc, Brady, Carson, Kamara, Anderson, Kupp, Metcalf, Javonte Williams, Dallas Goedert, K-Mac, Herbert, Dylan Elliott, McLaurin, Ridley, Sutton, Mike Williams, and then Mark Andrews. Chris with Matt Ryan, and then Gaskin, Taylor, Boyd, Cooper, Hopkins, Travis Etienne, and Logan Thomas. Not a bad lineup there either. I don't hate that one. Peasy, Lamar Jackson, CEH, Antonio Gibson, Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson, Jalen Waddle, Gus Edwards. Peasy, even though he goes to Antonio Gibson a little bit early, still a great draft for him. Howie Roseman, Murray, Harris, Jones, Allen, Higgins, Judy, Samuel. And then goes with George Kittle at tight end. Upside drafts Patrick Mahomes for his quarterback. Monster and Robinson at running back. Adams, Gallup, Juju Smith-Schuster, Zach Moss, and then Kyle Pitts at tight end. Myself, Ryan Tannehill, and then Barkley, Henderson, Ayuk, Diggs, Deontay Johnson, Mike Davis, Aaron Rodgers, Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, Darnell Mooney, Michael Pittman, Laviska Shenault, Kareem Hunt, TJ Hawkinson for Khalifa, Sir Caps-A-Lot with Joe Burrow, J.K. Dobbins, Joe Mixon, Chase Claypool, Mike Evans, Robert Woods, Chase Edmonds, and then Irv Smith. And Mock Drafter 14, Josh Allen, Kenyon Drake, and Melvin Gordon. OBJ, Hill, Jones, Parker, Justin, Tucker, and Travis Kelce. There you have it, Headliner Nation, our 14-team mock draft for today. Thanks so much to everybody that participated in it. Thanks so much to everybody who's out there watching right now. Let us know down in the comments below who you thought you had the best team. Why don't you go ahead and throw out a grade for me as well. Me personally, didn't love it. Not bad. A lot of risk involved, but I think really it could be anywhere from a C+ to an A-. I think I have a whole lot of upside. I think it could end up being a tough season if some things don't end up working out. I think it's a little bit of somewhere in between. And then if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, and of course hit the like button down below as well if you appreciate the content. Headliner Nation, I'm out. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.